This is MJL for 3/1/78.
All over, whatever that means.
Very good. Simply relax and go with the flow. SS is now moved into F12.
Some kind of space.
Gone through some kind of crack, some kind of space.
A lot of people working over desks. Can't really tell what they're doing. It's not very clear.
Move in close and see if you can greet and communicate with one of them. Working with some sort of machinery. Very good. Move in close and see if you can examine it.
Kind of light rays on fabric. I hear the word fabric here. It's making something very durable. Like the fabric will never wear out.
Very good. See if there's someone you can communicate with directly and who will help you with getting greater information as to where you are and what is taking place.
Kind of distrust this, but I'll just report it. I'm walking outside. I'm walking with a man, and he says I'm on planet Mars.
Have a dialogue with him and then report what you perceive and find out.
An industrial complex. Manufacture whatever we need. Also, he talks about a state of consciousness to do with completion of a pattern of activity that was started on planet Earth. The entities who come here left planet Earth with desires for kind of engineering processes that were not completed. And in a sense, they're fated, doomed, maybe fated to continue this research on and on. They don't seem to be very disturbed about it. It seems to me like it's a grind.
Ask him who he is.
Osmir. John Osmir. Some kind of a power plant.
Director of a power plant.
Plant.
Electrical power plant. Was this on the planet Earth?
Yes. In Oregon.
Ask him if he can remember the dates.
$1898, he was born. '46, he died.
Ask him where he was when he died.
Salem, Oregon.
What was his full name? Osmir. What was his first name?
John.
John Osmir. Ask him at what time of year he died in Salem, Oregon.
November.
Very good. Ask him what it felt like to die in November. In November 1946, ask him what it felt like.
He died of a heart attack, and it was unexpected. And he felt fearful. He felt like he wasn't ready to go. He was holding on. And then when he began to pass over to the other side, people came to meet him, to help him.
Who are these people?
Sally.
And who was Sally to him?
His friend. As a child, they were friends.
Very good. Ask him what happened after the people met him, after Sally met him. Then what happened?
Well, there were two people that took him by she took one hand, and man, I don't know whether it's his father or his grandfather, took him by the other hand, and he just walked around with him. He doesn't really remember all of the steps he went through. It was just a gradual adapting to this new situation in which he began using those skills he had developed on the Earth planet.
what is the purpose of his doing this that he is doing now.
He seems to be in a position of passing on information about use of atoms and atomic power. He passes it on sometimes to people through dreams. He's been attempting to directly channel some of this information. And I just am being told I'm not going to be given the specifics in this information, but that some people who have been doing research in a nuclear way have become very adamant against the use of nuclear power for weapons, and have objected, have somehow, although they haven't actually joined in an external organization, there has been a concerted effort to oppose the use of nuclear power in a detrimental way, and John has been attempting to communicate with this kind of circle of people who are on the earth plane. He says they are in danger from government sources, war-mongering sources, and he is bound to keep this information confidential.
Then ask him from his perspective that he has now, from his viewpoint that he has now, is there a way that we can generate electricity very simply without use of nuclear energy?
There's a level of power beneath the Earth's crust. This can be activated by the rays of the sun. He's showing me some sort of an instrument. It seems to be shaped like an ice cream cone, larger, of course. And it goes down 200 feet into the earth. And when the sun strikes inside of this cone-shaped instrument, this is very puzzling to me because personally I don't know anything about anything like this. So I'm just describing. I'm seeing a kind of a lining inside of this cone-shaped object. The cone-shaped object is in some kind of heavy metal, and this lining is a lighter weight metal, and it spins It's activated by the sun, and it reflects and it spins. And there are, on the side of this heavy metal cone, there are all sorts of little welded hooks. They're loops. Holes that are like loops. Not hooks, loops. And, they have some cables extending out.
Is the point of the cone into the ground or the open end of the cone?
The point is into the ground, and the open end is out, and it has a reflector on the inside that is spinning around.
What is the angle of the cone off of the center line of the cone? What is the angle? How many degrees?
Maybe about 30-35 degrees.
Ask him if the angle is important.
He said yes.
What would be the best angle to use then?
28 degrees.
Very good. Then what is the outer shell material you've used in the cone?
Iron.
Very good. And what would be the material on the inner lining?
It's a different kind of material than let me see if I can understand it. It's an alloy. It's a word that sounds something like allerin. I'm not sure if I have that right.
Ask him what the alloy is a mixture of.
It says aluminum and tin.
In what ratio?
70-30. 30 is the tin.
Very good. Fine. But what is the principle behind such a unit?
If I knew something about this, it might be easier. I just feel so absolutely blank, but I'll listen.
All you need to do is report.
Based on the relative temperatures between the earth crust where this has gone into 200 feet or more into the earth and the temperature of the sun, is something like an alternating he says it's like an alternating current that takes place as this lining spins around. There is from the two temperatures mixed together, they form a connection, like a male-female plug connection. And it's like an eternal source. It doesn't run out, it doesn't run down, it doesn't, doesn't need to be conserved. And these wires, these cables that are going out in all directions.
In all directions from the cone?
From the outside.
I see.
They're actual cables, and I see them going along. It's like I'm being shown them. I'm not actually in detail, but like at the end of them is a electric stove, and then at the end of one's a washer, and the end of one is a big piece of machinery, and I mean they're not really connected up like that. It's just like symbolically they're being shown to me.
Where is the electricity generated? On the outer shell or on the inner spinning unit?
It's generated on the inner spinning unit, but it's transferred to the outer shell. It's like there's a spin-off, and the heat is what generates it, and it's the heat that these two temperatures it's a different kind of heat than either one of them is by itself.
Very good. What makes the inner lining spin?
The sun. As soon as the sun shines on it, it begins to spin. But of course, there's this connection. It's already got the heat from the earth. It's there, and the two react like a chemical on each other. There isn't any wind, there isn't anything mechanical, there isn't any kind of a belt or anything like that.
Is there an axle or axis that holds the inner liner in place?
Seems to be a long cable that goes. It's like a stem that goes down inside of the outer shell. Like it keeps it from blowing away.
I see. What holds the inner liner in place then, and keeps it from, what prevents it from rubbing against the outer shell?
It does rub against the outer shell. There's a sort of a friction.
And then it does not have an axle around which it rotates.
No, it doesn't. It just has like a stem. It's like a flower with a stem. And I keep looking for something that's kind of holding it in place, and I
very good.
didn't see anything. There is a kind of looks like a washer. See, I'm just so stupid about these things. I don't even know what they are. There's some sort of thing at the place where the cone, originally I thought it was like an ice cream cone, but it really isn't. The top part spreads out more. And at the place where the cone narrows down, like it has a ruffle around the edge at the top where it's spinning. I mean, it's not a ruffle, but it's just a wider place. So there's a joint there, all right, that goes down and then begins to narrow out more as it goes down. That place, there's something like a washer. That rather, it helps to hold the liner to guide it and keep it kind of centered and balanced. But that's all it seems to have.
Ask him if this has ever been put together and put in use on the planet Earth.
He says no. But he's working at some way of transmitting some kind of a chemical formula they have. And they're in the process of working this out.
Is it possible for us to build a unit like this?
Well, he says it depends on the location. He considers it possible, but he doesn't feel that they have all of the information to make it simple as it could be.
Is the cone itself 200 feet long, or does it have to be just 200 feet down in the earth?
At this particular spot where he has it, it has to be 200 feet down in the earth.
So the cone itself is 200 feet long, then.
Mm-hmm.
I see. Ask him if there's a way that we can determine a particular spot where this should be.
All he says is that there's a mathematical formula that will determine this.
Ask him if he can repeat the mathematical formula to you.
He says that he could show it as far as they've gotten with it, but he just he's very hesitant about it. I suppose part of it's my hesitancy, but it seems like, he doesn't feel that we're very attuned at this sort of thing, and I agree with him.
Ask him if we can send another person who is more attuned in this area to talk with him.
Yes, he says right away, yes, he'd really, he would like to communicate with someone from Earth that perhaps is educated and experienced in this.
Tell him that we have one of our people as a physicist, and he would love to come and meet and talk with him.
Well, he said he would like to do that, and he doesn't promise anything because they're still working.
Very good. All right. Well, then, why don't you ask him if he had any children when he was on the planet Earth?
He said he had a son. His name was Mark.
Ask him if he knows where Mark is now.
Mark was drowned in some kind of an accident in some rapids.
Was this before November of 1946?
I get that it was 1948.
Ask him if his wife is still here on the planet Earth.
He says she's remarried to someone named Stuart. I think Stuart is the first name, but I'm not sure. And he's not very, I don't know, he just doesn't seem to want to talk about it.
Oh, I just say then, what was her first name?
Sue.
Very good. Then thank him for being so patient with us.
Thank you, John.
And then ask him how he feels about religion now that he is where he is now. How he feels about religion that is as it is he knew it on earth here.
Well, he said he was never religious. He used to think of himself as being an atheist.
Ask him if he's changed his viewpoint at all since moving to where he is now.
He kind of laughs that it's like he gives the impression of everyone here knows that there's a divine plan, and there's he says we don't talk about religion especially, but the spirit is what we're working on and with, and
ask him if he understands better the energy by which you're communicating with him right now.
Well, he says he certainly understands it better because when he was on the earth plane, he was not open to such communication. But he says he has much to learn in this area. That he is on the planet Mars because he has to, serve out a certain sentence.
Ask him why he has to do this.
He was really attached. It has to do with the desire system. He was really attached to his work. He made his work almost to God. And so he built up his next realm. He has to work that out and then move on to another place where he can develop more artistic sides of himself, and another place where he can develop his spirituality higher. But that what he's saying is that our attachments, our preoccupations with certain aspects of existence predetermine where we go, what planet we work on, what our main activities are. Once we get past a certain level of I guess he refers to it as a level of confusion. A level in which many spirits, many entities are kind of trapped, are able to communicate with both sides somewhat, but not with any expertise, or they can't really be helpful to anyone. It's I guess he says it's what we talk about as the astral plane, where no real work is done. It's just kind of an interim. But when one is in that interim place, it feels, well, he says it feels partly confused, but sometimes like, not too far from the way one felt on the earth plane.
Very good. Does he expect to return physically to the planet Earth?
He says he really doesn't have that knowledge. He doesn't have any expectations. He's in a place where he just has something to do right now. And he says he's not one of the planners, whatever that might mean.
Does he know who the planners are?
He said all he knows is that there are, like, hierarchies of spirits.
Has he met some of the hierarchy?
He says he's met messengers in people that are more, or not people, entities that are more highly developed than he. But he really isn't very clear about all that.
Well, then ask him this other thing, that when he was on the planet Earth, did he attend college?
Oh yes, he attended college.
Ask him where he attended and what year did he graduate.
Graduated in 1928. All I can get is Polytechnic.
Ask him which Polytechnic.
Either he doesn't know or I'm not getting it clearly. All I know is it begins with an O. Odeon. It may just be Oregon. I don't know.
Very
I'm
good.
not sure.
That's very good. Well, thank him for being so kind as to tolerate our communication, and we enjoyed meeting him very much. And ask him how we can come and visit him again. Does he know?
So he's well known on planet Mars.
Very good. Then why don't you thank him and then move away?
All right.
And then explore some area. Be sure you thank him so much. And then just go explore for a bit and report in.
Place where I was before, where I was outside of time.
All right. It's an easy place to go. Think of a pattern. Blue, and then green, and then purple. And then go through the purple, and you'll be there. And then just report in when you get through.
Feeling.
Good. And simply relax and go with the flow, far past the purple.
Stillness. So
just let yourself go with the flow and relax and feel safe and secure and go. Sense of
sort of a halfway between flying and floating. It's like, it's not quite as voluntary as flying, but it is more purposeful than floating.
very good.
There were an invisible cord that were pulling me around in a very gentle kind of way, moving faster than the clouds. But Hans has been with me a lot of the time. Like whenever I seem to be in a real spacey place, he takes my right hand in his left hand.
Can you communicate with him?
Yes.
I ask him then how he feels and what he thinks where he is now.
Able to move through different levels of consciousness, levels of experience, and he really doesn't think about it very much. He experiences, and he is connected to my development.
Ask him if there is a difference in his perspective as to where he is now than when he was on the planet Earth physically.
Oh yes, he says there's an utter lack of trying where he is now.
Ask him how was the event of his moving over into where he is now, the event of what we call death. Was it unpleasant? Ask him to describe it for you.
Oh, Hans died a fairly natural death. He was in his 70s. He was ready to die.
Ask him if he has learned anything since his death that he did not know here on Earth.
Well, as he explained to us before, he was a doctor who was very interested in studying the brain, and he has learned a great deal more on the other side in terms of the uses of the brain.
Ask him what what the most important thing is that he has learned.
None of it makes any difference. That we just do what we have to do. And if we get too hung up as Earth people in struggles, it's the idea that we get too involved in the importance of our own minute contributions. And although it's important to contribute and to pass along the information that we have to remember that it's just part of the scheme of things. And that those of us who do contribute, who seem to be creative and capable, are only channels.
Then what is important? Ask him that he feels about Earth life existence, physical matter existence here.
It's like a testing ground, a proving ground. With our bodies, we are able to work out our karma in a more effective way than in the other planes. He says as far as he can understand, and he says too, like so many of the other entities over there, that he has much to learn, but he is at a higher level of development than the gentleman we spoke to before. He lets me know that, but it's not with a sense of pride or anything. It's just a statement. He says that originally the Earth plane was put together as a kind of amusement, as just a toy, a game, that somehow got out of hand.
Who created the toy, the game?
the perfect energy, the pure energy, infinity. He says we call it by lots of names. The Creator. He says it wasn't an accident. It was a created plan, a concept.
Very good. Ask him if from his perspective he can perceive patterns that will take place in our time and space in the near future.
He says yes, and then he tells me right away, personally, that certain patterns have been hidden from me. Others have been given to me very clearly.
Would he like to share the ones, or would you like to share the ones that have been given to you and that have been hidden from you?
He says again, as he's told me before, that my main purpose in this sojourn is to fully surrender and to keep my heart very open. And at times these things must be, the tests must be experienced with faith, blindly, that if all of the tests I've been put through had been clearly illuminated beforehand, my supreme intellectual ability would have somehow changed the pattern, which would not have been to my advantage.
Do you understand that?
Part of me does. Part of me's unwilling to hear it.
Yes.
He talks about a change, possibly a change in the method of my practice of my profession. But he says this will evolve naturally. It's nothing to concern myself with. And in that part of my life, I will continue to be successful and bring others to a higher level of achievement. Again, he says I must trust. He says I'm stronger than I know.
Ask him what the relationship is between you and him, if you desire to know this.
Well, he says he's in the relationship of a teacher, guide, companion.
Ask him how long this relationship has extended. Did it include only this physical lifetime here?
Well, he says that we have experienced physical lifetimes together. When he also was a male and I was a younger man, a boy or younger man. I don't think it was a father-son relationship. I think it was an uncle.
Very good. Ask him from his perspective if he can perceive any important patterns of earth changes that are coming up that we have heard about.
Well, I'm being shown a kind of a very shadowy, it's not a clear, but a shadowy outline of the United States. And it's like it's fluttering. And it's like it was as if it were a piece of paper and it were flapping in the wind, and the edges, the eastern and the western edges are becoming tattered. Like the wind is blowing and ripping the edges. And there are big numbers that go by, 1980, 1981, 1982, and then it quiets down. And it's a different shape. And there seems to be a big sort of a hole in the middle. I think it's through Illinois someplace. It's not solid around the edges anymore.
What does the West Coast look like, say, in 1988?
There isn't any West Coast.
What does
I mean, there's a West Coast, but not like we see it.
Where roughly would it be?
Montana. Montana's on the coast. Part of New Mexico.
What about the Rocky Mountains?
There's only part of the Rocky Mountains left.
Which part?
I don't really know. I'm asking, he's not saying. I just...
All right, very good.
See them.
Ask him to look at the East Coast. 1988.
East Coast seems to be at Michigan.
Then follow it south.
To Florida. Florida's okay.
How about in between? Where is Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Washington, D.C.?
Sort of flutters up and down. There's part of Virginia's okay. There's part of North Carolina that isn't there, but not all of it.
What about north, moving northward from Virginia?
Makes a sort of a fairly straight line. Goes a little bit of an angle toward the east, but mostly it's kind of cut off. All the jagged edges seem to have smoothed.
Where does the smooth line run? From Michigan down through where?
I don't really... I hear Wisconsin, and I don't know where Wisconsin is even. My geography's terrible.
Where is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for example?
It isn't.
Very good. Then moving into another area, and I'm so glad that Hans is communicating with you directly. Do you like this?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Ask him if our understanding of brain-mind from his viewpoint where he is now is anywhere near accurate.
Well, he says there are different approaches in the Earth plane to the concept of brain-mind. Some more accurate than others, but that man has more than one mind. He has one brain, but he has more than one mind. There's a mind that's like the higher mind. And there's a human level mind that we usually think of as our analytic mind. And that the brain itself is a storehouse, like a computer. That's interesting. He says that the human brain has within it a composite of experiences that extend beyond the lifetime of the individual. And it's the mind that interprets. The higher mind knows. The higher mind is wise, in touch with the wisdom, but the ordinary, the everyday human mind is the interpreter of the information that is stored in the brain. And that sometime man may discover a way to tune into that storehouse of information, just like it has been discovered a way to tune into the stored memories of a lifetime, throughout the lifetime. He says it will be a natural evolutionary process that will go along with the development of a higher level of consciousness. That some of the attempts at jolting the brain by forceful means have sometimes been harmful. Some of the heavy drug usage particularly sometimes create a lesion between the memory bank in the current short-term, even long-term human memory. And the lesion is something that, it's like a leakage, so that some of these things would leak through, but not in an organized, sensible fashion, creating apparent psychotic episodes. And not particularly useful. Some of our methods of attempting to cure these psychotic episodes are more disastrous than helpful. But other more gentle, particularly in terms of drugs he's talking about, with just a kind of gentle understanding, patience, the kind of reaching out to the person on an unconscious level. Some of these scars may be healed. And in the case of psychotic episodes, it's more useful to the individual to heal over these leakage spots than to try to pry them open further. Because if we allow the patterns, say in a more normal brain, if we allow the patterns to develop in their own way, there will be spontaneous states in which the stored memory will pour through. He says this work that we're doing now is one way of tapping into that information. I feel a little suspicious because I'm going to try to clearly listen to his answer, but my knowledge about dreams is quite extensive, and I don't want to color it, but I'm going to just listen for a few minutes and try to be very still.
Very good, and then just report. Just report.
To a higher level of consciousness. Where do they fit in? When we learn to control our dreams, to dream lucidly, we will have one of the channels to this stored information. The material may be personal, or more universal, more general, or both. He says it will be very useful for all to learn to use the dream state. But he cautions that everything must be done gently. Pressure creates conflicts, and then barriers, blocks.
Very good.
He says much of this information is already available to people at the Earth plane. Much research has already been done, much of it very useful. It should not be abandoned just because much has been done. More can be done, he says.
Is there any particular suggestions as to what would be the most rewarding pattern to go in this direction?
His perseverance is very important because for him when he becomes, bored with a situation, tired of a situation, he says we have much to learn from the early American Indian culture in terms of dreaming.
Very good. Now ask him if we may visit with him again real soon, and that we will then close down for a moment or until we see him again. And tell him we're very grateful for all of the help and communication. and especially on your behalf. And then ask him if he has any final message for all of us for this session.
Well, he says that he's available and willing to communicate at any time. In fact, he's very interested in what we're doing. It's not just available, he wants to. He wants to cooperate.
Good. Well, fine. And our Earth time session says that we must leave him for the moment and tell him we will be back to visit with him very, very soon.
All right.
That's good. Say your goodbyes for the moment. Understand? Voice. This is MJL for 3178, Session 2.
Very comfortable.
Very good. Now let's move up to 12, state of expanded awareness. Just count very easily from 10 to 12, and you'll move into it. Hans is here. Very good. Now, do you feel real calm and serene now?
Yeah.
With his help. Good. Ask him then if he would help you in a meeting with Stephen.
All
and
right.
ask his response.
Is this all right?
Good. Ask him if he will help you arrange that meeting now. She is in a
Place it. It's like on the side of a little hill, and there's a stream going by, and there's a rock coming out of the hill like a ledge. And Stephen and I are sitting there talking.
very good. Then just communicate with him a bit and report when you feel that you desire to do so.
In a place now where
Seems to be in a place now.
he has to learn how to accept it's like he was too attached to doing things for other people, constantly giving out and not expecting anything for himself. And he couldn't seem to learn that there had to be a balance, receiving as well as giving. Now he's in a place where a whole lot of other people are just the same. Everybody's stuck with the idea of doing something for someone else, and so some of them are going to have to learn how to receive. That's the other side of having the open heart, is to be able to take in, accept. So that's one thing he has to work on.
Very good. Does he understand more his point of transition?
He's beginning to. He's not fully accepting.
ask him if his understanding of events, people, time, and space is more now than it was when he was here.
Well, he understood it quite clearly when he was here, he says. The understanding hasn't changed very much, but when he was here, he lacked the kind of inner knowing that it was so. And that's like the grace, I guess, that would go with the understanding. Now there aren't any doubts. But there is a plan and a higher plan, and that he was, when he was on the Earth planet, a channel. He was very powerful, but now he knows he didn't know that then. He can't channel in the same way where he is now.
He cannot channel?
He can't channel in the same way, no. He doesn't have a body.
I see. I asked him if he can recall, if you so desire, what immediately transpired after he left here, or as he left here.
Well, he isn't left entirely. He's not very far. It's like he comes and goes. Well, at first there was once he really left, that was a very bright union, a sense of peace, a sense of joy. And then there was a kind of a panicking, tremendous confusion. And that's why he was holding on to me, wanting me to be with him without realizing what that would mean, without fully realizing it, like pulling me there. And then when he began to be more adjusted to his state, it became more clear, more balanced. There was less of that pulling.
Did anyone come to him or meet him finally?
Yes, a little girl, the daughter of a friend who had died, that he was very connected with. And then he met his father and his younger brother.
Ask him if he can still perceive physical matter, Earth, very clearly.
He said yes when he wants to. He's not, at the present time, not really trying to break through like he was. But he can perceive it.
And ask him to describe where he is and how he is now.
Well, he's in a place where There's really bright colors, and I see a lot of flowers. It's almost like it's too pretty for him. There's a certain amount of restlessness, but that's part of what he has to learn, that everything doesn't have to be painful and difficult and strife and like he is in his earth body this time and many times was like a crusader finding the hardest things to do. And this sojourn is like teaching him, attempting to teach him that there is merit to lighter things, less stressful situations. Like it isn't necessary to fight all the time to win something. Maybe the causes we're fighting over are just as well left alone. So it's a very peaceful, beautiful kind of spot, like a garden, beautiful, maybe like an island, has beautiful flowers. It's a very healing spot. I'm asking him if there's some way he can specifically communicate with me without holding on to me or me holding on to him.
Very good.
He doesn't know, but he's been thinking about it.
Ask him of your relationship, if it has just this one sojourn, or have you known each other previously, and does he know this at all now?
Well, this is something we discussed when he was still alive, and he said the times that I recalled were fairly accurate, but there were other times as well.
Ask him if his perspective has improved now that he is over in that other energy system.
His perspective?
Can he see this more clearly from where he is now?
Oh. She says that everything is very clear. It's very clear to him. The pattern is clear. And that nothing happened that wasn't set up to be happened. It's a very clear cause and effect. He seems to corroborate much of what we talked about before.
Very good. Mm-hmm. Now, why don't you ask him some questions that you feel are important at this time?
I believe that when a person goes through a very sorrowful, very painful experience like I've gone through, am still going through, that a certain amount of energy is generated that there is like a build-up of some kind of power or energy, and I'm asking him if this is right, and he agrees, and I'm saying that I really don't know what direction I need to take with this. That I'm accepting, but that I feel very much at a loss in terms of where to go with it. I know I need to remain in the present and move forward and not hold on to the past. And I want help with this.
Does he have any recommendation?
He says that some information will come to me in dreams, to be very watchful, to really make an effort to note my dreams. I've been having lots of information in dreams, he says, and I haven't remembered it. Some of it may be too hard for me to look at. And he says the best time for me to communicate is the times when I awaken in the night to just sit up and meditate. And that he'll try when he can to really to give me the information I need to move on, to remain healthy. Like what he's saying is that our relationship is still very strong, very connected, but it's going to go into a completely different, a different level, a different kind of connection, and that he's attempting to make a change, that he's attempting not to hold on and drag me backwards.
Has he met any of those who have been guides to him in his previous sojourn?
Yes, one, like an elderly man or sort of a monk, dressed like a monk anyway, that he had met before, has been helpful to him in explaining why he needs to stay in the place where he is, and that he may need to stay there a long time.
Asking what is the most important item, information, or knowledge that has become clear to him since he left this sojourn?
He has to learn to laugh more. He says that's very important, and I was right when I used to tell him that. It seems very simplistic, but it's very important. That there's really a lot of humor in the whole picture. If we can stand back and look at it, that humor is just the flip side of tragedy, and it's where the strength comes from, and the ability to laugh at ourselves, see the lightness.
Humor is a balancing mechanism, then.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Is there anything further that you would like to meet and converse with him about? You go ahead.
Telling me he wants me to get in touch with his daughter. I'm saying that might be difficult, but I'm willing to.
Does he have a particular message that you should give his daughter?
To explain to her how he felt about her, how much he loves her. All of his children, but particularly his oldest daughter. The question I'm asking that I don't get an answer to is just how he's going to directly communicate with me, and even more directly than this, like if there's some way, even my physical part of me, my physical eyes or ears or senses can be aware of his presence. It's my spiritual body that my astral body too, that's aware and able to converse and have a dialogue, but I'm asking, is there some way he can connect with me on a conscious level? And I don't get an answer.
Then turn to Hans and ask Hans if there's a way that this can be done, and if it is an advisable thing to do.
Hans says that our union was so close that there's some way that Stephen can use, like reinforce my energy, give me additional strength and healing power, and that yes, it can be done, but he's not telling me how either.
Ask him if there's a reason why he is not telling you how.
Well, it has to do with my need to be patient and continue to surrender and simply be open to this possibility, to nothing to block it. He says it's going along as it should, that actually I'm not putting up barriers, but if I try too hard, that will be a barrier. So it's actually an enigma. It's a question of being open but not trying.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's the answer to that.
I guess it is.
Saying that this is something that can be generalized.
They're both saying this to be generalized.
In terms of this communication with other entities. Particularly, this is true of people who have recently passed over. Somehow it seems easier for the people who have been there longer to reach across, but more in the spiritual realm. I guess it's something that goes like people who've recently passed over. maybe get confused when they attempt to reach back into the physical world. They forget that they're not part of it. So it may be a matter of time.
That infers that time is a process there?
No, they don't have any time in our sense. It's time in the worldly time that it may have to pass, but the sense there is it's a process. A learning process has to be gone through. But and while that process is going on, time passes here, but no time passes there.
Yes.
It doesn't seem to make any sense, but that's what he said.
Well, we will take it that way then. Why don't you then turn to Stephen and ask if there is anything more that you can do for him at this moment here in physical matter Earth?
As I can help him with prayers, or sending whatever I want to call it, sending energy, that people here can help people where he is get through their tasks. Not in any directed kind of prayer, just like it's more just kind of an open-ended sending goodwill or something like that.
What about any unfinished matters or business or whatever that you might take care of him on his behalf back here?
He says I've pretty much done that, except for contacting his daughter Sarah. And the right time will come for that.
Ask him if there is a special phrase, word, or message that you can give to her that she will recognize is unique to their relationship so that she can be sure.
I used to call her Hun part of the time. I didn't know that.
How about some particular event that was known only to the two of them that you could report back? It will help verify the communication as far as she's concerned.
Clear about that. Seems to be something about a dog, but I don't have it very clear.
Well, I had asked the name of the dog. That'll start it.
Roger, I think.
And what kind of dog was it?
Well, it's a black, curly-haired dog. Sometimes I just have it shown instead of telling me.
Yes.
I think it's kind of a mongrel.
When the event took place, how old was his daughter?
Twelve, 13.
And where were they living at the time? What city or town?
In Woodside.
And then see if he can show you a picture of what happened with the dog that she would remember.
Well, they seem to be out walking with the dog.
Very good. Mm-hmm.
I think it chased something. It slid down a hill and fell in some water.
Then what happened?
They seemed to have to help get it out with a stick. Hold the stick out so it could climb out. It's kind of sort of a stiff bank, and it was climbing out.
Very good. Mm-hmm. Now that that has been opened up, ask him if there are any other things like that that might help validate the communication to his daughter.
Seem to want to go into anything else.
All right, very good. Ask him if there's any final message or communication for you at this time.
Okay. Me over and over again how important the relationship was, and how we're moving into new phases of our lives, both of us, with a different kind of relationship. He keeps telling me not to look backward, and he's trying not to. He finds it hard also not to look backward.